probability or the possibility or the chance. Every event has a possibility of occurrence. The probability of an event lies between 0 and 1. It can never exceed 1 and it can never be less than 0. To find out the probability, we use the formula: the favorable outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. A coin has two faces, a head and a tail. Finding out the probability of a head, that is, there is a single head out of the total 2, therefore 1 upon 2. Similarly, a tail is there a single tail out of the total 2 outcomes, there is 1 upon 2. A dice has 6 sides. The probability of the event of a dice would be probability of 1 or probability of 2 or probability of 3 or probability of 4 or probability of 5 or probability of 6. Or means addition, because only one outcome is possible when the dice is rolled. A coin flipped twice. When a coin is flipped twice, the outcomes change. They can be head and head, head and tail and head, or tail and tail. There are two ways to represent the outcomes. The first is a tree diagram and the second is a possibility diagram. And means multiplication, because the combination of both the events will result in a final answer. A tree diagram. When the first coin is flipped, we can either have a head and tail, and when the coin is flipped again, we can have a head and tail. If the first outcome is a head, we can have a head and tail, and the second outcome is a tail. First is a tail, we can again have a head and tail. Therefore the outcomes are head and head, head and tail and head, and tail and tail. A possibility diagram. A possibility diagram is like a timetable. We write down the outcomes on the rows and the columns. When comparing the values, we can have head and head, we can have head and tail, we can have a tail and head, and tail and tail. When two coins are flipped together, both the outcomes should be the same, that is head and head and tail, that equals to 1 upon 2. At least one is head. When considering at least one is head, we can have maximum 2 heads. Therefore, head and head, head and tail, or tail and head. The answer is 3 upon 4. A possibility diagram for 2 dice. The total number of possibilities in this case would be 36. In case of a spinner, probability of a prime number, we have only 2 prime numbers, that is 2 and 3. Therefore, when we add their probabilities, that is 2 upon 3, addition is done because we can only have a single of them as an outcome of an even number. P is a probability of 2 because 2 is an even number, and the probability of 2 was 1 upon 3. 2 spinners. These 2 spinners would be combined together to form a single event. We can have 1, 2 and 3 on the first spinner, and we can have 1 and 2 on the second spinner. Therefore the outcomes come out to be 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 2 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 1, and 3 and 2. When we add all the possibilities, they sum up to 1. Making a possibility diagram of 2 spinners, that would be 1 by 1, 2 1, 3 1, 1 and 2, 2 and 2, and 3 on 2. It's the same representation, but it's only done in a grid form. In case of 2 spinners, the difference between the first question and the second question is that we have a repetition of numbers in this case. In the first case we had 1, 2 and 3. In this case 1, 1 and 2. Therefore the values change. Therefore the first spinner would have the outcome 1 and 2 only, the second is 1 and 2, and the possibilities of 1 would is 2 by 3 and 2 is 1 by 3. The outcomes would be 1 and 1, 1 and 2, 2 and 1, and 2 and 2. Thank you.